Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Can I Have a Word with You? Bruce Pulver, author of the Chatter, Our Words Matter, TEDx speaker, workshop leader, and person who just is obsessed with words and breaking them down. And I found this amazing co-host who kind of thinks the same way, and that's Heather Carter. How are you, Heather?
I am good. How are you doing?
I'm fantastic, and it's so great to do these. I did one solo recently. You've done some solo. We've done some together, and this kind of new season, we've said, hey, let's experiment with bringing some guests on, those that we know are really passionate about what they do in life. And it's really fun to do that when you can say, okay, you can come on the show. We'd love to have you on the show. But by the way, you got to bring a word with you, and you got to be willing to kind of play by the game rules here, which is to break it down and really discuss it. So we've got an amazing guest today. I'm going to bring her on, and I'm going to let you go through an introduction, and we'll go ahead and get started. So here we go.
Hey, Stacey, how are you?
I'm really good, thank you.
Well, we're so glad to have you on our podcast today. You are our second guest, I think. Is that right, Bruce?
That's right. Together, yeah.
Besides with doing this together. So we're excited to have you. And I like having you as one of our guests, because the reason I even know you is because Bruce connected us during that whole little COVID fiasco that happened a while back, and we were all sequestered at home and looking for outlets, and we all got connected. So I'm glad that we get to be on here together and kind of go through your word. So I'll let you kind of introduce yourself, and then also tell us what your word is, and we'll get after it.
Yeah, thank you so much. So I am actually a certified life and intentional movement coach, and I bring the word change today to break down and talk about.
Awesome. So change. Wow. We've done one episode on change. It's a big word. I love using it because there's so many different ways to break it down. But the fact that you brought it and you've got your perspective on change, we try to talk a little bit as we unpack this as, is there a biblical verse that kind of leads you to change, or that kind of relates to you as we start to break this down? And you shared it with me, and I'll go ahead and read it if that's okay. You had said, well, there's a couple, right? There's a lot of change in the Bible, but there's one thing we know that doesn't change, right? And that's our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, who is always our rock. But you took Proverbs 4:23, above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. Help us understand, before we break down the word change, where those intersect for you.
For me, those intersect with you have change, whether it's good or bad, expected or unexpected. And either way that you go, you have to guard your heart, because everything you do flows from it. And so I think if you walk into any possible situation of change, just know that your heart needs to be guarded for whatever's to come. Whichever, if it's a good thing, expected thing, there's so much change on a daily basis. If we have this conversation now and we have it, an hour from now, it's already changed. Things have already changed. I've already grown. You've already grown. Something's touched our life in this conversation already. So it's never going to be the same except for the truth.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. And so I tend to break this down sometimes where I think of our mind, where it has all that movement, right? It's like, okay, what do I think? What should I do? What are the implications? What's moving? Oh my gosh, not that again, etc. But then that goes right down to our heart. And I think that's really where we're talking about. If we're grounded there, at least for me, my mind can swirl. And I'm in the middle of something and I'm going, oh no, what could happen? I kind of get that worry, anxiety, stress aspect rolling. But I love the fact that you chose that verse, because it just centers. It centers on what doesn't change.
When I think it's a centered, what are you centered in? Circumstance, the change, or Christ?
That's so cool that we're talking about this today, because I was reading, so I read Jesus Calling every morning. It's a devotional book, which many people have probably heard of, but one of the so then I let it take me down the rabbit trail of all the verses that they have at the end of it. And I start looking them up in my Bible. And one of them today was from Philippians. And it was where Paul's talking about how I've learned the secret of being content in every circumstance. And it said, don't worry about anything, pray about everything. And the peace of God will guard your heart in Christ Jesus and will give you peace. And I just think we miss that connection sometimes. We think we have to guard it like we're defensive, but the peace of God guards our heart. And so I think some of the things that you're going to talk about are the ways that is manifested, I guess, in our body and to involve our bodies, that ultimately that the peace of God himself is what guards our hearts. So why don't you go ahead and start with the C, and we'll just start down that road.
Yeah, so here's what we do, guys, right? If you're new to the show, we just take a word, we write it vertically, and then either Heather or I or our guests say, okay, let's take a look at just the letters of the word itself and unpack what it means to you. So, Stacey, first letter is the letter C in change. And what did that jump out at you with? What word would you use or phrase around change?
So what jumped out for me was it creates awareness. So something's changing, something's different. What was is no longer. And that's just an opportunity for you to open your eyes and get centered and be prepared to just move in a different way. I mean, it's all about awareness. It just creates awareness around you.
So what do you think causes us to not be aware? What are some of the struggles or some of the barriers of not seeing that awareness? Because you got to see it first in order to grab it.
I think for one thing, when there's change, it breaks the routine that we're so used to. And a lot of times you become somewhat complacent in your regular routine. Something changes, something happens, good or bad, unexpected. And it almost strikes you into oh gosh, I have to have a break in my routine. So automatically you become a little bit more aware of what's happening around you. And I think that mundane routine can be a little bit dangerous sometimes for people. It's good to have it, but if you stop thinking, I think the change really will make a huge impact on your life.
Yeah.
Habits can be good or bad depending on, so a change of a habit may need to change. The awareness of something's broken could be the first start.
Right.
So Stacey, tell listeners maybe just for a minute about one of kind of the main catalyst for change in your life. We've both heard your story but you have kind of a significant life event that produced a lot of change for you.
Yeah. So I was actually 4 months pregnant with my second daughter, and my mom unexpectedly had a stroke, and she passed away. And so you talk about this regular routine of, not necessarily routine, but you're going along in your life and everything's great. And that was an unexpected tragedy that, it shook the foundation of everything. There was no way other than becoming aware that what my life will never be the same again.
Yeah.
So it was a wide open Grand Canyon of awareness for me.
It didn't slip up on you. It was right there.
Right.
Nope. I talked to her that morning, and 2 hours later she collapsed, and then we lost her a week later.
Yeah.
We refer to those a lot in the show and in a lot of my writing, and Heather and I, as BAM moments. Everything before that moment was one way, and then BAM.
Yeah.
Things will never be the same. Never be the same. Wow.
So people, keep that in mind as you're listening, and everything that has prompted Stacey to do this work and to dig deep into it kind of was activated. Triggered sounds negative. It was activated by that event, and she's continued to work in it. So I'll let you keep going on your next letter, but I just wanted people to hear that story too. I think they listen differently.
Yeah. So let's move to the H.
So the H holds the answers of truth. And so for me, there's an awareness that was created. And I believe that in any aspect of change, whether it's painful or a good thing, it doesn't matter. Any aspect of change, there's going to be truth centered in it. There's going to be good centered in it, and there's going to be treasures in it. And so for me, that's just some of those changes do hold the answers of truth, and they do invite you in if you're willing to take the journey.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. You might not like the answers of truth, but that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about creating awareness, and then this is no longer the same.
Yeah.
And when something changes, maybe I've got to change, or where do I go? Right? Where do I adjust?
Yeah.
Wow.
And just accepting that invitation, seeing it as an invitation. It's not like I'm like, yay, I can't wait for my mom to die, so I'm invited to this process of change. But once I reached the place of stepping into the change and seeking the answers for truth,
Mm-hmm.
is really where the journey began to just unfold for me and be able to process. So
it's a lot about just acceptance of, like you said, you don't have to like the truth for it to still be truth. I mean, it is
well, and it was
we accept, we can move forward and do something with it.
That was when my mom passed away was really I think that's really where my journey, I had started my journey with the Lord. I had started in 2001, and my mom had passed away in 2004. And so I think that is when I really started to tune into what is truth when your internal and external worlds collide.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes there's just the mindset aspect that says, I have to do this in a change. And the flip of that, when you're talking about awareness and holds the truth, we might be able to switch that to say, I get to. I mean, I almost think you have to get to a place that says, I'm pedaling this bicycle, right? I'm moving it instead of just maybe sitting here. And not that we would want the situation to change, but we have to take some ownership. And maybe it's a mindset switch again from, I have to go do this thing to I get to. And maybe that creates some positivity in a very, very difficult situation that you don't really want to find anything positive about when you first.
Yeah. And it's interesting to use those two words, because I think for me, the words that came to mind at that moment of staying on the surface of it and just floating along and existing, and/or I was faced with, gosh, look what happened to me. And as soon as I was able to flip it to, well, why or how did this happen for me? That was a pivotal switch for me to really start to go in to it for that truth. Because you're not going to find the truth of that on the surface. It's not going to float along. No one on the outside is going to be able to give that to you. It's an opportunity for you. Like I said, it's an invitation to find out why that happened for me. And a lot of people probably are like, well, I don't want to look for why. I mean, my mom passed away. I can't wrap my head around an understanding of that. But there was a reason. There's a good in everything, whether we want to be able to see it or not, or but if we open up our hearts and start to dig into that, it just changed everything for me. It just opened up that awareness to where I could actually walk in and create space so I could breathe.
Mm-hmm.
We talked a little bit about that in some of our pre-work back and forth with emails, and kind of a similar situation for me, a very sudden death of my mother. And it's been a long time, but I've sort of grown to the every day there's something about her that I want to put back in the planet, because nobody really knew her, past the age she passed. And I did for all of my life until she passed. So I think you're right on there with the awareness and answers to the truth, to just say, you gotta find a way to dig in to find that meaning, find that truth.
Right.
All right. So anything else, or we can move on to your next letter?
We can move on to the next letter. In fact, I might even go the next two because I think they kind of feed into each other.
Perfect. All right.
So the A is allows progress. So as soon as you start to journey in, it just kind of creates that space, creates that awareness, and allows progress as you are able to just kind of start the journey in. And most importantly, the N, it narrates a new chapter. As soon as you step in, it's like a new page in a book. That I'll probably cry. The life I knew with my mom was closed. Her earthly time for us together was closed. And so it narrated a new chapter. It was a new page to turn to. And it was a blank page for me to start creating this understanding, or I don't know, it just reminds me of just a book closing, even though you don't want it to. But there's another page that her life and my life together were supposed to continue on that next page. And it just looked different than what we had anticipated.
Stacey, can you kind of tell us, as we're talking about that, like, so it did prompt you to start this kind of new ministry that you do? I don't know if that's the right word, but in a nutshell, can you tell us what you do with how you incorporate this guarding your heart and your mind, heart, body thing? It all works together. So I'd like to so that people can look into what you do later, when they're off.
Yeah, I think for me, Heather, it's the greatest gift that I can give to people is to help them. It's less about getting out of pain. And when I say that, I'm never going to be completely out of the pain of my mom's passing, because there's different times in life, like I'm sure, Bruce, you understand that too, that it just kind of pokes at you sometimes and you're like, oh, okay. But I think it's more of working in the pain to journey through the pain with his peace to get you through to the other side. I mean, I feel like there's always this intertwining between change and his peace and my heart and where is it? And like you said at the beginning, his peace guards your mind and it surpasses all understanding. So that is the greatest gift that I can give to people, is to help them pursue his peace and seek his peace.
That's so strong. Yeah, just flipping back, right? There's, I just wish I had more time. I could ask the question, like I need the go-to manual. Mom needs to be there, or dad needs to be there, or the loved one needs to be there. But there's also the cookie jar that says, what did I learn when they were with me? And that doesn't change either. Those are the lessons. And, maybe that's hard to focus on when you say, I don't have a go-to anymore for new stuff. But the value of the relationship and the experience is so usable. And otherwise, why would all of that knowledge been pumped into you, or that experience, or those things that you can then plug into and use? So I often believe that the reasons that we have to deal with certain things, and you put it to business, you put it to your faith, you put it to your work, is so that when you see someone who's in a similar situation, not exactly, but there's a relatability factor that says, let me help, let me be there for you. And that's a transformation too, don't you think? I mean, there's that desire maybe to be bitter, to be why is me, and all this kind of stuff. And then you then get to a point, if you work through that, through the message of it. Yeah.
Well, and I think that, for me, grief became God's classroom. And my grief and the process through it, grief gave me something that life never could. Grief took me into places within that life would never take me.
Wow. That's a mic drop right there.
Yeah.
Wow.
What do you have for the G and the E, so we can make sure we get to all of it, not just Chan?
Yeah. So the G is generates growth. So when you start creating and you're narrating a new chapter and you're allowing the truth and you've got a deeper awareness, then it generates growth in a direction of which is what we want: physical, emotional, spiritual, mental. It's all about the whole being, and you're growing. And then with the spirit led, it empowers your life.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah. So if we allow change to generate that growth, create that awareness, and it's kind of that little put a pep in your step.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's the only thing that you have in that moment, I wrote something else that kind of fits with this, and maybe this will help the listeners. If you look at the word change, in the middle of the word change is the word hang. And I truly believe that if you can hang in the change, that good will come, but you have to be able to hang in the change. And eventually you'll be able to make it through the monkey bars, but you'll get through there. And for me, I had to allow Christ to come in and draw closer to him and allow the Spirit to move me. Mm-hmm. And that was the way that I came out through it. Mm-hmm. You just have to be willing to hang in it.
Wow. Hang in the change.
Hang in the change.
Hang in the change. Wow. And what an amazing way you took that word. I mean, we all go through change. It's never ending, but embracing it in a certain way, staying in it as you roll through, because the only thing that we know is going to happen is things are going to adjust in life.
Yeah. And that growth can happen, like what you said, if you're allow yourself to grow through it, that sometimes the growth happens underground. Seeds sprout and grow and begin their process when no one else can see it at all. So just because you feel like you're not flourishing today doesn't mean that you're not growing. Those roots are sprouting. Eventually other people might notice those changes, but it starts pretty deep in there, and you do a lot of good work in that. So tell people how they can get a hold of you, and then maybe just real quick about the body movement stuff that you offer. That's like oversimplifying, but I want to give you a chance to do a little 1-minute commercial.
Yeah. So balanced with a D, balancedbodyreflections.com. You can reach out to me, send a message through there. And then as far as the work that I do, it's working in. And I do have a physical component to it that I created to teach people something that's intangible. So it's basically focusing on the connection, care, and conditioning of the heart. Mm-hmm. And I do have a physical component of it that we can integrate into it to help people with a better understanding of what that means. And it is the movement piece that got me through. It's the intentional movement piece that got me through. Mm-hmm. The change that erupted my whole entire life into the size of the Grand Canyon. But
yeah, well, I mean, sometimes we get hit in the back of the head with something we don't expect, and if you haven't yet, it's probably coming. Yeah. So
none of us would be doing what we're doing if we hadn't been through hard stuff.
Absolutely. So if
you look I had leukemia, that prompted activated my growth and changes, and Bruce had a lot of things kind of built over the years, but with his mom, but then also job things and stuff. It all stems from things where we could choose to just lay down and give up or make a change.
Well, strength is only built in change. Mm-hmm. Strength is only built there. So people need to understand that they're actually stronger than they think they are.
Mm-hmm. And we're not talking about change for $1 here. Mm-hmm. We're not talking about change for $1. Well, Stacey, so amazing. We're going to put in the show notes all the ways folks can get you. Mm-hmm. Get to your website, your blog, reach out to you if they're looking for some assistance, some guidance. You're there and available for. We just cannot thank you enough for being on our show and unpacking the word change. It's a beautiful way you broke it down.
Thank you so much. This was great. Really, really fun. So
until next time, everyone. We'll see
you
next time.
Bye, everyone. Thanks, Stacey.
Thanks.
Can I have a word with you? Take care, everybody.
Mhm.